Holden Made.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Holden Made Podcast. I'm Jeremy Holden, your host for the Holden Made Podcast. This is a podcast about creativity, about creative processes, and anything else that piques my interest. I look forward to interviewing people about their careers, about their creativity, and about their lives in general. On this episode of the Holden Made Podcast, we welcome two-time Emmy Award winning stop motion animator Max Winston. He has an eclectic career and a very unique creative style. Let's dive right in and hear what he has to tell us. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Holden Made Podcast. I want to introduce our guest, and so I don't butcher his name, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, I am Max Winston. Hello.
Well, it's nice
Um,
to meet you in person, sort of, Max.
yeah, you too. I do all kinds of things, but my profession is mostly stop motion animation. Um, Sometimes I do other things for work as well. I mean, fabrication related and such, but yeah, I have my own studio. I mean, it's very small. It's sometimes just me, but sometimes it's a handful of people depending. And when we're able to, we do jobs and make shorts for clients and stuff. But usually the people who come to me asking for um shorts or short spots to be made or whatever, they're usually coming to me for my specific style. So I tend to get a lot of creative freedom with the projects I take on rather than we want a general stop motion thing. You will do that for us. I'm more like I do things in my own way, and if you like that, let's do something together. But yeah, that's the gist of me, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love that. I number one don't think stop motion animation gets enough credit these days. Yes, everybody from probably our generation is familiar with big films like Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, but there's stop motion littered throughout the animation world, throughout the commercial world, in advertising. And I mean, I know I have students. At the time of this recording, I am currently a college professor and teaching animation, graphic design, all that good stuff, along with digital photography, and we have some students who didn't grow up with the same level of advertising that we did necessarily, or maybe weren't influenced in the same way by stop motion. So I appreciate what you do because there's a lot out there that needs to be appreciated. And I want to get this correct. Your current studio, that's Rat Studios, is that correct?
Ratbat.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I messed that up.
Same
Ooh, that
two words, just reversed.
yeah, I'll blame my dyslexia on that. I'm
Okay.
lucky I can read and write at this point, man. But yeah, how did you come by the name for your studio, and how did you start developing your love for stop motion? Let's kind of start off there.
Yeah, I mean, the name for the studio, it is kind of a just silly, tiny anecdote story, I guess. But years ago, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 13 or something, I lived with some friends in this place in Chinatown in LA, and we had a garage. And with that also had like a little shooting space room, and we all did stop motions. So that was cool. We would all make stuff in the garage and share the shooting space and whatnot. And I don't know, one of us had a taxidermy bat that was like up near the ceiling for some reason. And just a few of us were just standing there, just chatting one day and started talking about that. And someone was like, it's a rat. No, it's a bat, or it's a bat. It's a rat. And I just like thought the wordplay was funny and it just stuck with me. I didn't even use that for the name of my studio till years later when I actually decided to put a name to my entity. But yeah, so that's how the name came about. Then I learned through googling it that there's a transformer called Ratbat, I think, and I was like, well, I don't think anything bad is going to happen if I also use the word Ratbat.
Yeah.
um but yeah, that's how the name came to be. um I'm sorry, the second part of the question was how I got into this, or
Oh yeah, where'd you find your love? Yeah, where did you find the love for stop motion animation? And I mean,
yeah.
you're definitely a lot like me with how much passion you have for animation. I unfortunately just don't get to do it as much as you. My career path went a little bit different, but what started your passion for? Where did you kind of ignite that spark for liking stop motion?
Yeah, I mean, I've always made art for my whole life since I was a little kid. It's just my parents were artists and they encouraged me to make art, and I did, and I always have liked doing it. Um, and like probably in as when I was a teenager, and yeah, in the 90s with like MTV and Liquid Television, which was like a show that was a variety show of different short films and Eon Flux and stuff like that. But there was a lot of stop motion and just weird techniques that were used in a lot of those shorts, puppetry and experimental animation techniques. And that was like my introduction to a lot of that kind of stuff, besides bigger movies. Yeah, like Nightmare Before Christmas when I was a kid and saw that. That really stuck with me. But I never, even amongst seeing all this stuff, I never really thought I could do that like for a living. I don't know why. It just seemed like, well, the people that know how to do that, and I'm just a kid or a teenager, I don't know, like, I wasn't I'm from California, from Northern California, and I wasn't although I'm from California, I'm not from Hollywood or whatever, so it's not like I knew
Yeah.
people that did this kind of stuff. It's not like my friends' parents were producers on this. I'm sure a lot of the people that'll be listening to this similar situation like that. I'm not saying that's the norm, but it is funny being in LA and talking to people that do this kind of stuff now. A lot of people from here, they just grew up around it and it was almost like normal. But so for me, I didn't know how I could do that or anything. I mean, knew I could make art, and in high school with some friends, we would dabble with some stop motion with like a mini DV camera hooked up to the Adobe Premiere and just taking frames directly in Premiere, and which was like pretty felt pretty advanced at the time. Um and then a friend of mine told me about CalArts, which I did not even know about, and he said there was this experimental animation program, and it just sounded interesting to me, and I ended up applying and ended up getting in. And so I went to CalArts, and that was when I really just, started getting exposed to every kind of animation, and just surrounded by so many talented people. Um, and that's kind of when I got into stop motion specifically. Uh, they kind of have you try all kinds of different animation techniques and whatnot. I liked doing it all basically, but I gravitated towards stop motion because I just realized like, wow, this combines everything I like doing into one art form. It's like it's not just drawing, it's like it's drawing, it's design, it's fabrication, it's acting, it's lighting, it's photography. It's just there's so much into it and it's all in one art form. And I've always been like a person of variety where I enjoy doing so many different things. And I just kind of realized, wow, I can put all my interests into this one art form. And that was like very inspiring to me. So I started doing a lot of stop motion when I was there. And yeah, that's how I kind of really fell in love with stop motion. I had always loved it, but that's when I started doing it and realizing like, wow, this is really cool, and I love doing it and not just watching it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's wonderful, and I think it's interesting. I grew up in Southern California, and I was exposed to animation. Well, that was just what I was into as a child. I just loved Looney Tunes. I grew up as far as stop motion animation, the old school Rankin Bass stop motion animation is what I grew up on, and that's where I first learned about it. But I mean, if my memory serves, when you mentioned Liquid Television, a little spark went off in my head, and I remember the MTV logo being stop motion animated in many different ways. Whether it was the M would peel away clay and become steel, the steel would peel away and become something else. Or I remember one vague memory, 4:30 in the morning, staying in a cabin with family in Big Bear, and I'm probably 7 or 6. Somebody left the TV on, and heavy metal music's blaring, and I just wake up to that to go turn off the TV. The music ends, and then suddenly I see the MTV logo merge out of this claymation style like plant, and it's this grotesque moment of, and I'm like, oh, that's burned in like at 8 I knew, oh, that's burned in there, that's never coming
Yeah.
out. And I specifically say claymation because this was a clay item. I know stop motion animation is not claymation, but still, it's what this was to me at the time. And thank you for sharing that. Did you have did you now I don't know much about your education. Did you decide to go to college for fine arts, or did you decide to pursue something else and then just you ended up getting into the field through other venues, or did you decide to stay away from college? What's your story with education?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, my high school was So I'm from Sonoma, California. And my high school was Santa Rosa High School. It was like a half hour from Sonoma. It's just a public high school, but they had a great art program there called Art Quest. It's still there. But I had 2 periods of art a day, every day of high school, actually, which I only realized upon leaving that and meeting and talking to other people how incredibly rare that is. But so, I was very much like in high school making like focusing on making art as well, which, helped made me get better and whatnot. And then after high school, I didn't want to go to school. I mean, not immediately. I'd been in school for, 18 years straight or whatever it felt like, basically. And so I just took a year off and worked at a restaurant as a busser and lived at my parents' house for that year. While I just was gonna figure out what to do, I figured I wanted to go to an art school if I could have that opportunity because it's like that was just, my thing, and I recognized that at the time that I was, good at it at least. And I still didn't know if it was something I could do for a profession, but I wasn't exactly concerned about that at that point in my life. It was just like, and my parents being artists, they were like encouraging me to look into art schools as well. Um, I mean, for whatever, they weren't saying you need to be an animator, or you need to be a painter. They were just like, let's look at art schools. And they were all really expensive, but they were like, we'll figure out how to go, just like figure out what you want to do and what we can do, and then we'll like do it. um and so I didn't really consider going to like a normal, whatever that is, college, um just because it was like, I don't know, it's like I didn't do well on I mean, I don't even know if I did well on the SATs. I don't remember. Like it didn't matter to me at the time. The only thing that mattered was like making art and creating stuff. So why would I like pursue a degree in psychology or whatever? And I'm not talking crap about psychology. It's just for me personally, it was like art seemed to be the thing. And so, but even then, it was like, I don't know, where should I go? Like all these schools seem cool, but yeah, just learning about the program at CalArts just seemed like my kind of thing. Yeah, because I was into like experimental music in high school, and experimental film that I knew about, which wasn't much of it really, but
Yeah, yeah.
my friends would like seek out weird, experimental, kind of odd, off the beaten path sort of films and whatnot. And so yeah, when I heard about the experimental animation program, I was like, this seems like my kind of thing, and it really was. I mean, it was a I benefited greatly from going there. I think personally, it's different for everyone, but it was a great experience for me. But yeah, so I went to art college like intentionally, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and CalArts is a great school. I don't think there's anyone doubting that they have excellent courses for those looking to just explore and create for themselves. I know they've been an animation mecca for decades, frankly, and I don't know where it stands now, but I know I looked into CalArts at one point in my career. I started out in the 2000s, early 2000s, 2002, 2003, going to school, took some time off after getting my degree. I went back again because things changed so much in the world from what I had learned with graphic design and the arts from 2003 to 2010. So went got back in, got a new degree, and just it wasn't in the cards for me to go to Cal Arts at the time. It just how do we put this? The funding just wasn't there for me, and I wasn't at the time willing to take out the loan that they had. And I do think that you were on the right path, especially since you had support, it sounds like, from your parents. It feels like they were very supportive of you going, "Hey, explore what you want to explore." And that's awesome to hear. And you mentioned experimental animation. Excuse my tongue there for a moment. With experimental film and animation, was there anything specific that inspired you that you can remember? Because we don't get to talk about experimental film very often in many circles, but I would love to hear an example of something that I can go look up and check out myself.
Oh, I mean, yeah, there's a lot, especially like throughout the animation history. I mean, I started learning a lot about it when I was at CalArts because one thing they do there is they just show you a lot of films. And so I was soaking up like a lot of this stuff. But I mean, like my the films of Maya Deren, I really liked a lot. I mean, she was an experimental filmmaker in the early days of that. I don't even I think the 40s or something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I just thought like, wow, this is really beautiful the way you can tell stories that like really make you wonder and like what's going on and what everything means as opposed to spell it all out. Um, I've always felt like David Lynch was influenced by her a lot, probably. Well, a lot of people were, but I mean, Norman McLaren is like, one of the masters of experimental animation. And the more you dig into Norman McLaren's work, the more you just realize what a genius he was and had so many ideas that were just so brilliant and always trying something new and new ways of experiencing visuals and stuff like that. Oscar Fischinger is like a big one. He did a lot of stop motion. Um, that is just mind blowing if you watch it now. I mean, this film Composition in Blue is like just it's insane. I don't even know. Yeah, it's like it makes your eyeballs like like they're fireworks or something. It's amazing. But there's so much really. But yeah, I mean, even stuff like David Lynch films are pretty experimental, especially for like a mainstream sort of figure and stuff like that. Like seeing Eraserhead. Actually, my first year at CalArts, I finally saw Eraserhead, and it was just pretty cool to see like, oh, you could do this kind of. That's what I always I'm drawn towards artists that try to do things differently than how they see other people doing them. That's what I am trying to do also. So I tend to be drawn towards that. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of great experimental like filmmakers throughout the years, and some of them are, it's like experimental film. You when you hear the term, you think a certain thing, but the more you look into it, you learn that it's not all that thing. And I would assume it is. Like it's not all flickering abstractions, for 20 minutes or whatever. Which I mean, I like some of that stuff too. I mean, Prit Parn is one of my favorite animation film directors, Estonian master. Um, he's still alive, still making film. Like just the other day, saw his new film. Forget what it's called, but it came out last year, and it's like a half hour, and it was great. It's like this guy's in his 70s now. He's still making films that are so interesting and unique. And but yeah, he's been doing it. I don't even know when, probably more than 40 years or something, and
Right.
all kinds of stuff, like weird cartoony things, more like esoteric, like I yeah, but it's all that's experimental film as well, but it's,
Yeah.
highly entertaining and like commenting on humans and society and everything. Yeah, but those are some of my favorites. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I appreciate that. That's a lot of like inspiration right there. That's a lot of depth, and I can see how that, like some of that I recognize, and I can now see how that may have influenced some of the work I've seen of yours. And again, your work has spread through many different venues, as you have mentioned. I know you primarily from animated shorts, working with productions that I happen to have. I just happen to know people on those productions, and that's how I even discovered your work was because of another friend of mine who's in animation and just happened to share your work. But I mean, it seems like you've had the privilege of working with a few different clients from Cartoon Network shows to Warner Brothers Animation. With your client list, I always like to ask about what artists are kind of proud of. Is there a project you've worked on that you're still proud of? Like it could be recent, it could be something from long ago. Is there still a project that you are proud of, either personal or commercial?
Yeah, I mean there is a handful of them that yeah, I mean it's funny. My student film from my final student film from CalArts, I Live in the Woods, is like it's weird 'cause I made it so long ago, but I mean, it still is, like, relevant and represents my kind of view of things and whatnot, and oddly enough, like, it does for other people too. Like, people will watch it for the first time now, and it'll, like, blow their mind or whatever. I'm like, "Alright, cool, that's cool." Maybe it's timeless to some degree, that would be great. That's something I'm so proud of. But and then stuff like the Uncle Grandpa short I made is, like, kind of a milestone for my personal work, um, because it's just like it represent it's like basically my own short film with those characters of that in the cartoon, although I've redesigned them and stuff. That and the Looney Tunes short I made recently, Daffy and Wacky Land is, that's like that's probably the biggest project I've taken on. No, it is the biggest project I've taken on, and
Got it.
I'm super proud of that because I'm also obsessed with Looney Tunes. I grew up loving them and watching them, and I think it's some of the greatest, I mean, American art ever made. I think, and a lot of Looney Tunes shorts. And so to be part of that lineage in some kind of way, it was like a lot of pressure, but in the end I felt like, okay, I did create something that I feel good about putting in that, lineage of Looney Tunes timeline. Um, yeah, and then probably honestly, probably my personal favorite thing I've made is a music video I made for my old band 5 years ago or something. Called Hateful Goo. It's just it was like a lot of experimentation and trying things out for me and just like playing, being playful with visuals and trying new stuff out. Everything in that is a lot of it is stuff I had never really done before and never really seen other people do. And I feel really proud of that. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't know. It's maybe like people love it. And then also I think people don't understand what they're looking at maybe sometimes, which was sort of my goal, honestly. But I don't know. I don't know how other people feel about it, except people that have, you know, given me compliments about it. But for me, that's one of my favorite things I've done. Yeah.
And that's kind of the fact that you can have such a big contrast in styles with your own you have your own unique style. And for those who were listening and didn't know, uh, the Uncle Grandpa is a TV series that used to be on Cartoon Network, and you had probably I want to say it was a 7 minute time frame, right? That's how long that short was.
It's like it's about 4.5, I think. It's under
Okay, I just remember it longer.
yeah, there's a lot in it.
Yeah, a lot happens in the
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that 4.5 minutes, man. And to have that stark contrast between that and what you created for your band, where you're saying, "Hey, people aren't even sure what's happening or not sure what they're looking at,"
Yeah, yeah.
because there's a lot of good chaos in the Daffy and Wacky Land short, which most of these things can be found on online in some way, either YouTube or social media.
Yeah.
Your music video that you made, is that available online?
It is, yeah, it's on YouTube and it is on my Vimeo page, yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
beautiful.
it's called Hateful Goob. The band is the Manx, Manx. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to checking that one out because I don't remember if I've seen that or not. Because 'cause I've deep dived on your work before, but unfortunately, the way we consume media these days, I'm not gonna pretend my mind is as beautiful as the Beautiful Mind movie. I had a
Yeah,
pun.
yeah.
It failed miserably, but that's okay. But, yeah, and when you're working on if you don't mind looking at the commercial work for a minute, whether it's Cartoon
Yeah.
Network or a commercial you've done or even the Daffy and Wacky Land, because again, I'm a huge Chuck Jones fan. I'm a huge Friz Freeling fan, and I'm a just all of the Looney Tunes. Like you said, you got to be a part of history with that, along with the Uncle Grandpa stuff. Just some of the strongest stop motion visuals Cartoon Network ever had. What is your workflow like for something like this? Because again, at the time, I'm going to be using this video to go up online and to go to students. I'm interested in kind of discussing your workflow for how you start a stop motion project like that. And you can choose anyone that you want to talk about because they all kind of have very different endings. They all have very different goals. So feel free to discuss that if there's one that you feel comfortable sharing with us.
Yeah, I mean, well, as I mentioned, like in the opening, the clients usually come to me for my take and my style, my approach to animation. So with a
So
lot of the
there's no pitch necessarily. They're coming to you knowing we know what we're getting and we're looking forward to your creative freedom.
yeah, I do tend to get a lot of creative freedom with all the projects you mentioned, and most of the that's why I end up like being proud of a bunch of them because it's just like, oh, this is my own kind of take on this, and as opposed to executing someone else's vision, which is for me less inspiring. But yeah, with like the Wacky Land short and the Uncle Grandpa short. This goblin short for this company Fontaine Fantasies, the short was called. Um, and some other projects. They all basically like they approach me and say, we're thinking we want to make this sort of short. What would you want to do basically? Like they don't come to me with like a script or whatever. Um so the approach is like, cool, okay. Like Wacky Land was okay, look, we want you to do stop motion Looney Tunes short. Um what would you want to do? And I'm talking with my friend at this point, Pete Browngart, who created the show Uncle Grandpa. He was the in charge of the Looney Tunes shorts that got made in recent years too. And so we're just throwing ideas around, and he mentioned like, what if it was like a Wacky Land thing? Because there's this old cartoon, Porky and Wacky Land, that's like one of my favorite cartoons, also. And I'm like, you love Wacky Land? Yeah, that's cool. He's like, and he's wondered what kind of characters I'd want to do, and I told him some like growing up, Wile E. Coyote was my favorite, Looney Tunes character because he was always building cool things, which I liked to do at the time too, and I thought that could be fun for stop motion because it's like all these weird gadgets and doodads, kind of, work really well in, like, miniature kind of and stuff like that. Oh, nice.
I'm going to pause you for a minute. You're preaching to the choir
Yeah.
when you're talking about the greatness of Wile E. Coyote. This is just
Yeah.
one of the artifacts I have. This
Oh,
thing's from the
nice.
friggin' 70s. For anyone who's just listening and can't see, I brought up a probably 3 foot tall stuffed animal from the 70s of Wile E. Coyote, and I will
Yeah,
gently
that's
put him
awesome.
down. But yeah, I often ask my students, not to get off topic from what you were saying, often ask them, who's your favorite cartoon character? And I've said it on this podcast before. Wile E. Coyote is mine because he's a creative genius, and no matter what goes wrong, no matter how much he fails, he learns from his mistakes, gets back up, and just keeps going. He has a goal, and he's going to get to it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
that
but
was
it,
like my kind of first thought. But anyway, so Pete was like, he kind of suggested, what about like Daffy, like a Daffy and Wacky Man like situation? I was like, okay. I mean, I love Daffy Duck. He's one of the greatest, and then it was kind of like, okay, we'll go, do a story premise or storyboards for a rough storyboards for this rough premise, like Daffy and Wacky Man with the dodo. And so that was, my prompt for or whatever, as people say these days. Um,
yeah.
and I just went and started, storyboarding it. So, and same with Uncle Grandpa. It was like we were just spitballing some ideas, and it was like we kind of came up together with, oh, what if like, the TV breaks and they have to use um they go inside of Uncle Grandpa's imagination to, like, whatever, and entertain themselves, or that's a bad description of the story, but it was like a little description like that, and then, like, I go off and sort of come up with all the gags in the story and everything. Same with the Fontaine Fantasy short, they were like, "We kinda wanna do, like, goblins in a foundry, like, making something, like, doing all this stuff," and then in the end, you find that they've been making the cards this whole time. And I just get, like, loose kind of, prompts like that, and then I will go storyboard it, come up with the all the ideas and the kind of the storytelling and dialogue if there's any, and then, present it to the client eventually. So there is, like, usually a pitch at that point,
Yeah.
but, like, I mean, usually they aren't, like, pushing back at that point, like, "Oh, we don't like half of this, you have to change everything." It's more just, like,
Yeah.
any kinda changes are, like, technical kind of, like the card the Fontaine was like, "Oh, well, they have to be making these certain packs of cards, so we need, like, different scenes where they're doing that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I didn't know that," like, so I add things, the Wacky Land short, they had their story team for the new Looney Tunes shorts, and I was working with them to come up with gags and stuff, which was great because they're all so funny, and most of them are cartoonists rather than just writers or whatever. Um, and so, they would just like be like, "Oh, what if you like did this here or whatever?" I'm like, "Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, I'll put that in." So there's a few things like that. But that's kind of the process. Then once the storyboards are ready, I mean, I just start kind of designing the characters and how I'm gonna build the puppets, and usually start with the puppets, the characters, because 'cause they're like the central focus. They're kind of like the most important, item usually.
Yeah, and that fabrication, when you're building those puppets, can that take a long time? I'm assuming because everything I've stop motion animated has either been a pre-existing object or has been paper, and paper animation does not take nearly as long as building the puppets, the rigs, the skeletons, all that kind of stuff. So is that a lengthy process to get into? Especially some of the puppets are very detailed.
Yeah, it can be. It does depend on like the detail, the level of detail, the level of movement you have to get from the puppets, and how long they need to survive
Yeah.
on screen. It's like the Looney Tunes short is what 6.5 minutes or something, I think.
Mhm.
And it's like I had to kind of halfway sort of redo the Daffy puppet. I mean, not like at least half of him because he was just getting so tattered, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like you have to build him. You have to build, in that case, you have to build them to where you can, take out the limbs and replace them and stuff like that. So that'll, as opposed to if you're making a puppet that has to be on screen for 5 seconds. I mean, I do a lot of fabrication techniques that are, I mean, I don't wanna say blasphemous, but, like like, that no one would think to do because it's not, like, technically good enough, but if it's only has to be on screen for a little bit, it just has to do a certain thing for, a short amount of time. I do some weird, techniques to just kinda belt it out, fast, but still have it look nice. So, it all kinda depends, or it's like there's puppets that only sometimes need to be seen from the front, so who cares about the back, stuff like that. But I mean, the Wacky Ant Puppets, I did spend months just on the 2 characters because there was a lot involved, and, like, Daffy has replacement beaks for his speed.
Yeah.
It's like 44 of them, I believe, and that's the most replacement mounts I've ever done. My friend, Brett Johnson, s digitally sculpted and 3D printed them and stuff, so that was a whole aspect. But, there was, like, a lot involved in those puppets, so they took longer, and then some take less long, it just kinda depends.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's fascinating for me if we reference the Looney Tunes short that you worked on. When you're talking about the 44 mouths, his mouth is basically different every frame in certain scenes because of the amount of emotive or emotion that's being depicted. And I'm very interested in one of the scenes that had to be animated. I actually watched kind of a time lapse video, either you posted or somebody posted from the studio. There's this scene where his face gets very wide and blurry from a speed movement. How do you approach that when you're designing that kind of movement? I would take it it's not no CGI given the way you work. You probably designed the blur in the puppet or in the eyes or in the face or something like that. Would that be correct to assume?
I mean, yeah, in my case, I don't, tweak the imagery to that degree in post, With a lot of blurs or smears, you can get away with a lot because it's just like a couple frames, if
Yeah.
that. So I mean, I'll just like cut out pieces of paper that are the same color as the puppet and make like a smear and just pop it in there for a frame. And your eye doesn't notice like, oh, the fur just turned to paper for 2 frames. Just like, oh, like I just blurred. That's one thing I do. As opposed to make an entire puppet piece that has to look the same. It really doesn't for the most part.
Got it.
But something else I do with a lot of my characters is make their facial features modular, meaning like the Daffy puppet, his eyes had pins on them, and I pinned them into his head. And for so that's like, I could take them out and pin them to a different area. Or it's like
Yeah.
if he looks this way, I sometimes like had the eyes sort of stay there when his head moves, and then they pop into place after the fact, which is, it's so I do a lot of stuff like that, and if you sculpt a character's face completely like a sculpt, you can't really do stuff like that. Like with the Fontaine Fantasy short, the goblins were very like traditional stop motion puppets. They didn't have modular pieces, but I wanted that look, so I did that. But they weren't going to be doing like, their eyes weren't going to be bouncing around on their head. They're all locked into place. But yeah, with the Looney Tunes characters, because Looney Tunes is hand drawn animation, traditionally and generally. And I love hand drawn animation because you can make every frame look completely different than from the other frames. And it's just like it's so satisfying for me to watch because you're watching this character just like squish and like and twist and like it's like and really stop motion can't do that. It no other form of animation can really do that, it seems, unless you're doing like clay animation, resculpting every single frame, which would take quite forever. um, but so I wanted to get as close to that as I could, and so that's like how I got sort of close to that, to where I can, like, if I move his head, I can position his eyes to give him a different, you know, look, like as if I were to like draw him here. How would I want to draw him? Well, I want his two eyes to be on the side of his head, even though that doesn't make sense because I just think it's funny. I think it looks interesting and fun and stuff. So that's how I kind of
Yeah.
tried to get close to, the level of uh variety that Looney Tunes animation would get out of their characters, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that's harkening back to that rubber hose animation style where a movement didn't just because somebody moved didn't mean all the pieces moved at once, and you get very exaggerated poses, and I mean, it looks great in what you've done. So I applaud you. I don't know how many compliments you get on this, but you're gonna get one more from me saying it all worked great. And I love the fact that you're just using the material you sculpted it out of, leaving it blank, and then the eyes are their own pieces. And I mean, it's different from how like Aardman Studios would do it, or maybe Leica with their 3D printing and mix of puppetry. You have your own technique, and I love that you're sharing that with us. Hopefully, didn't break the illusion for anybody. I know that I can ask too in depth of a question and
No,
break the
I
illusion
mean,
for an
it's
audience.
animation, it's all an illusion.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the illusion of movement. And I was gonna say I know we're running a little short on time. I tried to keep this down to about a half hour for you. I have a couple of small questions if you don't mind. Are there any current animators, artists that you're taking inspiration from that you want to share? Maybe there's somebody that you've come across and you're like, oh yeah, this is definitely something that's influenced me. Maybe we can share with those out there because I like to ask artists where they're getting their inspiration from. Heck, it could be music. It could be, a random commercial you saw. Is there anything you want to share with us about that?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot really. I guess I should have thought of some before. It's hard for me to sometimes think of names on the spot and stuff, but I mean, I do try to watch a lot of animation. I mean, I go to animation screenings and stuff pretty frequently, and it's old stuff, it's new stuff. Um, I love watching old animation that I've never seen, and I do love seeing new things people are doing. Um, I mean, it's not exactly just a new person, but he's been doing it for a while. But David Daniels, the Stratacut guy, um, he's this stuff's insane, and it still is insane. Whenever he does Stratacut, he's the master of Stratacut. Which, if people aren't familiar, I mean, maybe you follow him, and he has an Instagram. It's great, but
I'm actually trying to see right now because I follow a lot of
oh
animators and a
yeah,
lot of
it's
artists.
his Instagram. I think is Stratacut. But it's like strata cut is when you make a log of clay with like lots of little pieces of clay, and you make a long log, and then you slice it. And every slice you remove, you take a picture of the front of the log, and so it looks like you're taking a journey through this clay universe. And he invented it basically back in the day, and he still does it. He did something for SpongeBob, a SpongeBob commercial last year. He did the Smiling Friends things this year. It's like people are going back to him to do this technique, and it's awesome. And I'm still blown away by that kind of stuff. There's other people on Instagram doing Straticut too. I forget exactly her names. I think Ellard
Yeah.
Gain or something. Yeah, that person's fantastic. I mean, I like more stuff than just Straticut, but
I know, but you referenced the Friends, why can't I remember?
oh,
Sterling
Smiling
Friends.
Friends, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that ad. I know what you're talking about. I saw that piece. Yeah, that is a very interesting. And yes, I apparently do follow him already, so that's good. I can be as inspired as you are by it.
Yeah, it's
That's
just in it's crazy. He'll post stuff from the past, and he was a director in the '90s and directed some of the biggest commercials of the '90s, but still does this insane clay stuff. It's really cool. I saw a feature recently that I thought was great. It's called Boys Go to Jupiter. It's an animated independent feature. It's CG, um, but it's really funny, and just it was done basically by a person, I think. or at least like extremely small crew. Yeah, it's still playing at some theaters here and there, but it was great. I love seeing that because I want to make a feature one day. So it's really inspiring seeing other artists, do the big thing like that on their own, or no, it doesn't has to be on your own, but just without a $100 million budget or whatever. People are still
Yeah.
like that's really cool. Um,
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I actually missed that this summer because I remember when it was coming to LA and I missed Boys Go to Jupiter. I was enthralled with that animation style. So yeah, that's a great
yeah,
piece of
really great
inspiration.
style. Yeah, that's a fun film. Yeah, let's see. There's a lot of other people too. I'm oftentimes very inspired and surprised by like, how much great animation there is out there. Um and I do try to go to screenings and stuff as well cuz I mean there's so much great animation you see on Instagram, but it doesn't stick with me. And not cuz it's not great, it's like then you scroll in the next thing and before you know, you've seen 100 things since then, and then you go about your day and it's like, "Wait, can I even remember anything I just watched?"
Oh yeah.
It's weird. I mean, I love, like, Lee Hardcastle, his stuff. He's a clay animator. I think he's Australian. It's a lot of horror kind of claymation, and he has his own style, and he seems to make tons of work, and it's all really good, but it's like very down and dirty kind of style. It's not shiny, it's the opposite of shiny, but that's like part of the appeal.
Yeah.
It's like very well done, but in this way that's like home grown or something.
Yeah, it's a home studio feeling, but it's
Yeah.
still so professional and still so for being it's intentionally rough. It's intentionally
Yeah.
textured, and you can tell that it is very well made, but
Yeah.
still a home studio. Somehow there's that combination.
It's like he does things where it's just like it appears he's for me it appears he's not obsessing over the little details and making everything, pristine. It's more just like going for it. Like I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna animate this shot. And it's just there it goes. It's like, whoa, great. And you feel that energy in it. I love that. Um yeah, those are some things I've been inspired by pretty recently. Um but yeah, there's a lot out there. I always try to keep an open mind and see new things.
Well, I absolutely appreciate you sharing all that with us. The last two questions I have for you, before I go into the big sad question, but it's about I usually ask about where do you feel your career is at now, and where do you feel it's going to go in the next 5 years? Because animation's in a weird spot. Lots of things are changing. How are you feeling right now? Where do you think you're going to be in 5 years? Do you think you'll start a feature in that time frame on your own? Do you think you'll stay with the current work? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard question to answer because it's like we don't really know. Like no one really knows what's happening right now in animation, but a lot is not happening.
A lot. It's
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but like things are happening. It's very complex, but I mean, I haven't had much work this year. The work I've had has been great, and I'm thankful for it. But it's like I don't know. I feel like I'm in a constant state of wondering what my future is gonna be like. So it's hard to
Yeah.
know the answer. I did this Looney Tunes short. I mean, I finished it now probably 2 years ago, which doesn't
Yeah.
feel like that long ago, but it's like I haven't exactly had people clamoring at my door to make a thing bigger than that. I
Yeah.
want to. I'm ready to. I've been doing this for 16 years professionally now, 16, 17 years. So it's like, I can do whatever. I can do all kinds of stuff, but it's just a matter of getting the opportunities or like creating the opportunities for yourself or putting yourself in a position to get said opportunities, which I don't know if I'm good at doing that, honestly. I'm trying to figure out how to like get better at that as opposed to sort of waiting around and for someone to knock on my door, which it's taken me way too long to realize that's not the way to
Yeah.
succeed and prosper. But that's the way I've kind of done it, and I have succeeded. doing that, but I've realized I need to be more active and do more than that. So I don't know. I've also realized I want to make a feature. I have some ideas, but I haven't written them out, and I realized, I
Yeah.
think for a feature, any kind of feature, I think I need to write it at least to some degree. So sorry, and the dog's like playing with this ball. Oh,
No,
I don't know
no
if you can
worries. I
hear
saw
it.
a little tail floating around in the background earlier.
Yeah,
So no
yeah.
worries.
Um, so I think it's like I don't foresee myself starting on a feature in the next 5 years, although that would be awesome. But I would like to at least have an idea or some ideas fleshed out and like ready to go if the situation presents itself within the next 5 years. Like have I don't do a lot of writing. I mean, when I make a short, I do, but I don't just sit there writing. And I kind of want to start doing more of that. So instead of just being like, I want to make a feature, I can be like, I want to make this feature. I kind of have to get to that point, but I think it will just take time to get to that point. Time goes by fast. So I don't know. I want to just keep making bigger and better projects with like at a larger scale and with more of a team and more people and stuff. So I'm hoping that whatever happens in the next 5 years is some of that kind of action or pointing me more in that direction. I mean, I know things are going to happen. I just don't know what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's
Yeah.
kind of a big question. I ask everybody that question. I hate asking it right now because so many industries are up in the air. So many things are changing, and it's a weird time to see the evolution. We're right in the middle of changes, and that rarely
Yeah.
happens to an entire industry all at once. And I feel honestly, like you said, like being better at pushing ourselves out there, being better at finding our own, making our opportunities happen instead of just waiting for people to come to us. Because as a freelancer, when I was doing freelance graphic design work, that's what I had to do was just kind of wait for word of mouth, and it got quite old quite quick. So I just had to start fishing for opportunities because there's with the digital world of applications, there's so many bots just kind of going, what words are in the application, and the application process is strange. But having a strong online presence might be the only good thing about social media these days is having
Yeah.
a platform that everyone can see your work. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And um not I know we're out of time, but I have one last question for you. I do want to thank you. And before I let you go, do you mind, did you have any advice for people who might still be finding their creative way, people who don't quite know where to go or what to explore? Do you have any advice for those people who might be trying to figure out what they want to do creatively? And where can we find your work? If you want to share a website or social media with us, feel free.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say like just make art basically. Like, it sounds so simple, but it really is like that's the only way to make what you want to see in the world is by making your art. Don't think about it, don't talk about it, just do it. And the more you do it, the better you'll get and the more you'll realize your what your vision is. You just have to make a lot of it and try different things and keep an open mind and try to not be cynical. Actually, that's my main piece of advice because cynicism is easy. It's easy to say, this sucks, that sucks, everything sucks. That's the easiest thing to do. But what the hard thing to do is look at the good in something and see, well, what can I learn from this? Or what can I even take from this to improve what I do? Even if it's like, oh, it's shaping what you don't like, watching things and being like, well, geez, I see people like that. I don't want to do that. So that kind of like makes you realize your own vision, even experiencing things that you might not be drawn towards can open up new doors or like solidify what you already thought about your what your pursuits are and what you want to do. And also it's just like don't ever you always be open to changing what you do. I guess that's for me, that's a big thing. I'm like, I do have a style, I have like a kind of aesthetic I do, I guess. But to me, I don't really. I just have things I'm interested in and I try to pursue them. And I'm always trying to shake that up by just making things. Like even if it's gonna look like crap or whatever. I don't really care, honest. I mean, I do care. I want things to the that I make. I want to be proud of the things I make. I want them to look great and represent my view of the world. But not everything has to. It's like I have a sketchbook. And I just draw in it. I go through different phases. Honestly, I haven't been drawing recently, but I try to just draw in it all the time, and I just draw whatever. I do scribbles, then turn them into characters and stuff. It's like, and it's just crapping out of your brain. Basically, it's like
Oh yeah.
has to be perfect. I'd rather make things than make perfect things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, just the act of making something, whether it's shooting a photo, writing down some sheet music, or strumming on the guitar, picking up the sketchbook and sketching, or writing down a poem. One of these directions for anyone who's feeling creative, just get something on paper, even if it's scribbles
Yeah.
that you manipulate. And I really appreciate that advice, Max. And again, I know your schedule is probably tight at this point, and I appreciate you sitting through this. Again, want to thank you for participating in this interview series. And if there's any place you want to share with us, social media, Vimeo, YouTube, feel free to tell us where we can find your work.
Yeah, I mean, I use my Instagram mostly for the place to put well these kind of things I'm talking about, just little experiments and stuff, and that's Mad Max Winston. Um And they yeah, if you go there, you'll see I do like I'll just sit down one night and just spend a couple hours shooting some weird little animation thing with objects I have in front of me, stuff like that. I just put it up there because it's fun. It sort of motivates me like, well, this is kind of fun. If I make a silly little thing, I just upload it and people will see it, and that's kind of fun. So I almost use Instagram as like an animation sketchbook. Um not consistently. Sometimes I post a lot, sometimes I never post for a while. But Instagram's the main thing. Then I have my company's website, ratbatstudios.com, which is very simple, but it has a reel on it and like examples of the shorts and the work we've made and such. And I am actually about to start my own little short too, so which I haven't done in a while, but I've come up with like a sort of simple idea that is still like interesting and fun and doesn't take a lot of space. So I'm going to be starting that soon, and I've just come by coming up with the ideas. I haven't started fabricating, but I may be documenting it on Instagram, because putting up behind the scenes like before it's out, because I've realized people like to be part of the process and see that, before the film is even done, and then it can kind of get people excited about the film, so that'll be something coming up at some point next year. Yeah, it's just gonna be a short, fun, weird thing.
Oh, that's exciting. And well, off camera at some point, because you may have already talked about this. I collect animation memorabilia. I might have to hit you up for some stop motion memorabilia at some point.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about that another day. And again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being a part of this, and I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too, thanks for having me.